Welcome to the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast, where we interview the best and the brightest business and real estate leaders. Our mission is to inspire and help 1,000 entrepreneurs to start and succeed in real estate and entrepreneurship. We will give you the exact playbook to succeed in your business through the experience of those who blaze the path. We're bringing the what's working today directly to you. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, I have an awesome guest, a good friend of mine, an awesome entrepreneur, and also a military guy, James Lascara. Thanks, man, for coming on. I appreciate you.
Man, I really appreciate this. I think what you're doing with this podcast is awesome. We've been close for a few years now, and so being asked to be on your podcast is a huge honor of mine, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited. You have such a... So James's background is, military guy, high performer in the military, kind of on this career path, and then finds the entrepreneur world, finds real estate. James, why don't you tell us that story? Like, how do you go from, fully focused on mission, and then you get this little curiosity bug and you start along this real estate world? How did that start for you, and how did it get you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's funny because as you go through the challenges of life, you don't necessarily know the road that they're going to put you on. And if it weren't for some of those challenges, it would not have led me to the success that I'm experiencing today. So let me dive in. So I entered the military in 2010, graduated from the Naval Academy, and spent about 10 years in the military. I had done 4 deployments over the course of 7 years, and I was in Virginia Beach for most of that time. And then in late 2019, I moved to Tampa. I had bought a house and I had been house hacking, and I was also doing a little bit of passive real estate investing, but it wasn't a big focus in my life. I would say financial freedom was a focus, but not entrepreneurship and real estate growth. So through the process of moving in 2019, I had decided I was going to make my previous house in Virginia Beach a rental. And in doing so, I uncovered a lot of challenges and friction through hiring property managers and mismatched tenant expectations. And long story short with that is that my property sat vacant for about 4 months. And for a period, it wasn't even listed for rent, even though I had asked them to do that. And I had engaged professionally with a property management service. And so as I transitioned to Tampa, I also bought a house, and I was house hacking at a larger scale here in Tampa. And I said, well, I didn't really do much preparation or self-education on the system to use for approaching how to turn a house you lived in into a rental. So what goes into that? And so I started doing some more research, and I said, well, I was completely unprepared. I didn't do anything to ready myself. What did I expect in terms of the outcome if I didn't put in any of the work? And that was just really like a light bulb moment for me that served as the catalyst for me striving to learn more about real estate. And then once I did, I started realizing the truth, which is instead of in a W-2, you trade your time for money. I could use leverage by employing knowledge, expertise, and leverage, like financial leverage, for money through real estate. And so that got me started on a track of really just buying some semi-passive investments like rentals. So I closed on 7 rentals in 9 months once I really started on that track. So I got my initial start with real estate investing, at a more, I would say, in a more focused manner through buy and hold value add rentals. And that was mostly here in Tampa, starting in about mid 2020.
Well, real quick, because I think what's cool. So for the folks who don't know you, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, you're a military guy, but you're also a financial freedom guy. You're a numbers guy. You're an engineer by training, and you're investing in the stock market and TSP, and you're like in the numbers. You're like fascinated by growth and that kind of thing. So it's not like you weren't building financial freedom. You were doing it just in a different way. You were looking at the equities and those kind of things pretty heavily at that time. Is that pretty accurate?
Oh, I had been that way since high school. So my whole thing with financial freedom, I still maintain this position, is increase your ability to add value by increasing your skill set or your knowledge. And then that will deliver your ability to produce more capital and then invest the difference and never have your lifestyle creep up. So if you can live on $50,000 a year, when you're earning $1 million a year, now you have $950,000 to invest in income producing, equity producing growth assets. Where you see people go wrong is they start to invest the difference and buy, super fancy cars. And I'm not shaming any of those people. If you want to do that, go for it. It's just not me. So I've always been kind of on that financial freedom track because I realize the power it can have to produce other freedom in your life, freedom of time, freedom of purpose.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to the real estate part, which I think this is fascinating because you're a super smart guy. Like you can make a spreadsheet with the best of them. You're looking at all the numbers and you go from this, like I'm growing this account and I'm investing and it's going pretty well for me. But then I stumble upon the like accidental rental thing and I moved to Tampa and I start trying some of these strategies and you hit like exponential success over the next, few years, which you'll talk about here shortly. But you see two different kind of things now. You're like in equities and your savings rate's good and you're investing. And then you do this real estate thing. And I can't wait to hear like why you're already making and saving and growing wealth one way. Like what was it that you saw in real estate? As you tell the rest of this story, what was it that you saw in real estate that made it so much more powerful that you're like, oh my gosh, how can I do more of this?
Just one word, results. I just saw results. I'll give you a few examples as we dive in. So I started closing on buy and hold rentals. And at the time, I started uncovering more tax strategies as well. And as I've always been just wired as a kid, I've always like had a challenge that was put in front of me throughout my life. And I've gone both ways with this. I'm just like, nope, this isn't for me. I'm out completely. Or I dive in. I'm like, I must know everything about that thing. And I was that way. Like I built an off-road vehicle, like, cause one time I got stuck and that wasn't a comfortable feeling. And I was like, I have to build like the best like off-road vehicle. I had like a crazy like knife collection at one point. I was like, I love like knowing all the different steels used and like the mechanisms for like pocket knives and stuff. Really, really peculiar stuff. When I bought my first house, I needed furniture and I didn't like the coffee table I got. So I started a custom woodworking business. So when there's a challenge that comes in front of me, I either just say, no, that's not for me. Or I just dive in like super, super deep. I've always just kind of been that way. And so real estate became that thing for me for sure.
I love it.
Yeah. So at the time, as I uncovered these tax strategies, I came across the capital gains tax exemption. And this is how my development business really got started, which is the name on my hat. And so I was buying a new construction house every 2 years. And that was kind of my plan. Buy it bigger than I need it to be, rent out the extra rooms, and then, keep the difference, invest the difference for more financial freedom. And so when I was doing my second one in Tampa, it was 2021. I was in the process of building it. And I started looking at numbers. I'm like, it costs, and these are kind of skewed numbers, so I'm just going to approximate a little bit, but it was like the land they bought for $250 and for me to pay them to build it, which is, there's some margin they're baking in there too, was $400. So they're in it for $650, add maybe $50,000 for holding costs. So they're in it for $700 and I bought it for $850. I'm like, well, there's even more equity to be gained there. So like, why don't I start this process even sooner? And so I started my development business with the intention of, and I'm not a builder or a contractor, but with the intention of putting together these profitable investments, because I started to get pretty analytical with like land use and density and zoning here in Tampa. So that got started in 2022. And now we have 3 ground up projects in Tampa now. We also have other projects that we've already bought and sold, just like land flip type things. So that was one business that I started as a result of a deeper level of analysis. And then I became an agent in late 2021 because I was like, well, let me get better access to my own deals and also roll any commission into deals that I'm doing, both acquisition and disposition side. And so that's been a really great experience as well, because what's cool is I could take all this knowledge that I've learned for myself through the real estate investing process. And now I can go out and help like a buyer who wants to be on that same trajectory that I was on for their own financial freedom, which has been a great way to serve others, which is one of my principles. And, as I grow further. So those are 2 businesses. The third one was just the rentals. We just started an LLC for it. Nothing crazy there. And then I was also investing in commercial syndications, just myself as a limited partner. And it's cool because we have great overlap here too, Adam. Like I've invested in deals that you are primary GP on. And so we started sharing those with our network and we started a business for that, basically just sharing great investment deals that I'm also investing in with our network, which is a really big focus of mine, like bringing financial freedom, enhancing opportunities to others.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. You find these efficiencies because you are like an expert at like high efficiency, really dialed in. Like I don't know you to do anything and not be incredibly efficient and effective in it. So what I think is cool is you find real estate and you go, oh my gosh, the tax efficiencies in this allow me to not only make a bunch of money, which I can do in other ways, but it also on top lets me keep it because of the tax advantages in real estate if you're doing things like cost eggs and other strategies. So it's like, of course, you uncover that because you're like dove so deep into it and you're like, oh man, there's so many rules here that work to my advantage, which is how the tax code is written. The tax code is literally written to be advantageous to people purchasing real estate, investing in real estate, making real estate improvements in the country. It's what keeps our neighborhoods nice and things like that. So yeah, it's really powerful. It's really cool to see you get there. So right now you have Poseidon 25. That's your development company. You're in Tampa. You've done, a dozen or quite a few new builds. I know I've walked a couple of them for sure. I know you're currently building couple townhomes or a duplex, right?
Yeah. So we have a 2-unit townhome project. That's our first ever like custom from scratch, ground up project. And then we have 2 single family homes going on concurrently as well. So those will all be completed in the summer. And those are all three projects, 4 units, build to sell projects. So we'll sell them all.
That's really amazing. Yeah. So development's going well. You're still on the agent side. You do help select clients, I think, right? Like certain clients on there. You have like incredible market expertise, which I think we had somebody in our circles talking about this the other day. Should I just be an agent or an investor where those two skill sets can actually serve each other really well? And I think you balance those so well. In fact, even though I'm an agent, I asked if you would be my agent on my purchase because I was buying a new build, but you had way more expertise than me. Like, I don't care. I think I would rather personally have that expertise.
Yeah, I appreciate that, of course. The other cool thing with the agent side is we've started a team now. So I have a team at the moment. We have 3. I think it'll grow a little bit this year. We only do really inbound. I'm not out there trying to recruit for more agents. I think the right agent would see what we're up to and come to us. But now I can use the experience that I've generated over the course of years and kind of give that back to a team that's like, high drive, get the job done, deliver a very quality experience to clients in a very resourceful way.
And so get the results. Yeah, I love it. All right. So with all this stuff you have going on, you've built this whole ecosystem. You've got a team, not just an agent team, but you have a team in the enterprise that you have. What do you see as the most exciting opportunity specifically in real estate for the Tampa market right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So an opportunity that's personal to me that I'm really focused on this year is taking advantage of tax benefits for sure. So I'm looking at investing in my first qualified opportunity zone deal via a qualified opportunity fund. If you don't know what that is, I don't really want to give like tax advice on this podcast. And so that's my disclaimer. Like what I'm about to say is not tax advice, but it can be very, very beneficial if you have some capital gains to put that into a qualified opportunity fund. There are disadvantages of it. So you've got a 10-year hold horizon that you're looking at. So if you're older, if you need that money for retirement, it may not be a great fit for you. But, I'm in my 30s and I think that's a really good fit. And I like the long-term growth opportunity that those provide, coupled with the tax advantages of them, of course. And then, there's talk, the Senate has to vote on it soon, but taking more advantage of commercial acquisitions with, like leveraging the cost segregation studies and take advantage of bonus depreciation, especially making that a huge focus if they bring back the 100% bonus. Because right now, if they don't, it'll be at 60%. So,
which is good. It's just not as good as 100%.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's still 60 and of course it'll phase out every year by 20 less percent. But that, and I would say just in general, taking really, really focused look at tax advantage strategies in real estate. I'll give you a perfect example. Like I just listed my own former primary residence up for sale right now. That'll be a capital gains tax exemption to put more dry powder in the business pocket for more deals at a tax-free basis. So I really try to prioritize tax savings in whatever I do. And that's, of course, a focus this year.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this a little bit, but you built this because of the advantages. You're playing the game as the game is put on the table. So as an example, you buy a primary, you live in it for 2 years, you get that capital gains exemption, right? So that's like, if you have $250,000 of profit on a personal residence, you don't pay any taxes on it. Now, once you go over, I think 250 and you're not married, you do pay some taxes, but you've done that a couple of times where you go and you buy a house, you live in it for a couple of years, and then you sell it when it's most advantaged. You take that capital and you roll it into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you're finding more and more efficient opportunities, like the qualified opportunity zone. So and I think people can't, it may be hard for people to see this, but you talked about a little bit where, hey, I'm living well within my means and I have this massive goal. And in order to get there, I'm investing this gap, but you could just keep widening the gap by making really solid investment moves. And people might look at that and go, yeah, but he's not doing anything with that money. Doesn't he want to live his life? Well, hey, when he's 45 and a decade from now, that pile of money is going to be exponentially bigger, and he's still pretty young. And if he wants to keep going, he can, or if he wants to take it and do something else, he can. That's the crazy thing. I think people don't, it's hard to envision that delayed gratification where you can take a big chunk of capital, put it in a 10-year hold, knowing that it's going to basically be, super tax advantage, maybe even tax free 10 years from now because of what you invested in.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the decisions I'm making are not so that I can experience a level of like a dopamine hit today. I'm trying to set myself up for a very long horizon, decades from now, to live a life of total freedom, for not just financial freedom, because I want freedom of my time and I want freedom of purpose, right? If I, in 10 years, if I want to just do a bunch of woodworking and not make money and build, I used to do all this woodworking. I'm working here now at the desk I made. If I want to build a bunch of those, I can, and it's not even a concern. Yeah. So, I would say I'm also just wired a little bit different than a few other people, I guess. And I think as I've grown, what has been challenging for me is learning to tune out that noise. I can acknowledge that other people have an opinion. I can respect the opinion they do have. And if it's not for me, I can regard it in that manner. It's just I'm not going to play your game. I'm playing my game. Why are you worried about what I'm doing? I drive an F-150 and I love it. I don't need other fancy
By the
things.
way, that's the most common vehicle of millionaires. Just gonna say that, F-150.
Yeah.
So now that's really cool. So what would you say the biggest challenge in business you personally are solving this year as you grow these things? What's your biggest challenge?
I would say that's a great question. I would say one of my biggest challenges is using the opportunities that we have in front of us as a business to bring investments to more folks so that they can have very simplified access to some of these opportunities in a way that enhances their financial freedom. And why, that sounds simple, right? That sounds very easy. The reason it is challenging is because I think a lot of people, most people, the majority of people, they get in their own way. And so they're like, well, why would I do that? Which seems risky. And I might have known James for 2 years and, I see his success, but he's trying to sell me on something. And I'd rather just invest in the stock market. I'm like, that's fine. You could get pretty good returns in the stock market, but is it giving you principal pay down, appreciation in the market, depreciation through tax benefits, and then equity growth in the difference? I don't think that the stock market is going to give you all these things, plus cash flow, by the way. So, reaching those people and helping them at least become more educated into how that works. And if it doesn't work for them, that's okay. I don't take it personal, but just reaching more folks, I think, to make it simple.
Yeah, I love that. You're such a forward thinker and you're very focused on and keeping your businesses and everything operating at such a high level. But you do take the time to give back and to pour into people, and you've designed your life to where you can continue to do that, which I think is really cool. I remember I think it was January of 23 when I went to you started a meetup in Tampa. And yeah, it must have been January or February of 23. I went to it and we were in a restaurant up in North Tampa somewhere. I think it was North Tampa. And you had the back room and it was packed. I mean, it was packed. It probably fit, 35 people. We had 40 in there or so. And I was on a panel up there and I was like, man, this is incredible. And then, fast forward just 6 months later or so, and you've got this big venue. There's 200 plus people. You hold this elite investor meetup in Tampa and you're bringing in You're giving people access to the people you have access to. They're coming to this event for free. You have people come into your elite investor mindset group where you're doing some more personal work with people. It's just really cool to see all that you're given. As you learn and grow your own business, you're taking the time to bring other people in the local area of Tampa up with you, which I think is amazing. It's the best meetup in town for sure. And I've been to a couple.
I appreciate that. I kind of consider it like an ethical responsibility I have to do that. So I appreciate you mentioning and acknowledging that.
Yeah, I think I truly do think it's cool because, it's like, it's really exciting for us, right? Like as entrepreneurs, and most people wouldn't get what we're doing. Like, what are you doing? Why are you spending your time on that? If they weren't in this space, they wouldn't get it. But you get in this space and you start networking with people, you learn new things and you're super excited about it. And it's like, man, there's like a whole bunch of people right behind me who also want to come down this path. Maybe I can blaze the way and give back in some kind of way. And you're doing that at a high level. So that's cool, man. Kudos to you. I'm big on that. And my goal is also to help as many people as possible. I do want to ask a couple more questions though. You're talented. You're a pretty talented guy. You're talented at quite a few things. What is your one singular superpower specifically in business? Like what's the one thing you would say that you are world class at?
I would say it's changed. I would actually say it's changed. So I would say 2 years ago, if you had asked me, 3 years ago, if you had asked me, probably would have been sheer resilience. Like I get challenges that put on me and I think truly most people would stop. They'd be like, I don't understand how I'm going to get through this. And that inspires me to find a way. I still think I am wired that way, but I think I took a step back and looked at it like bigger picture. Real quick, the reason why I think I had to take a step back is because I think I sometimes use that too much and I induce challenges that don't really need to be there because I'm like, I'm a challenge problem solver kind of guy. And so what I think it's evolved into, really this growth for me has been probably within the last 12 months, is I think my superpower is the ability now to deliver value. Delivering value, identifying opportunities where value can be provided, and also identifying where they can't say no to those things because they don't fit in line with my core ethics and values. And how I do that, I think, is through effective leadership as a team. I have a team of people now. I have several full-time employees. And so ensuring that our company values are in line with the ability to provide others value. And then for our, I guess I don't want to use the term value too much, but for our value provision, we get paid, right? That's how the business functionally works at this point.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Big fan of the book, The Go-Giver. I think Brian Berg is the author. That book is all about giving and it talks about it in a business sense. But one of the requirements of that book is being open to receiving. And there's this thing called the law of reciprocity where, you're giving, and you don't do it to get something back, but you do get something back. You get the feeling of what you're giving to the community, but also a lot of times, people come back, they want to work with you. They're the right clients to work with you in some kind of way, whether it's, on the agent side, getting involved in the development, being a part of the communities that you're growing. It just attracts the right people. When you give, it comes back tenfold and it attracts the right people in your life. So I think that's smart that's where your focus is at. You did mention 3 years ago and how it's changed since then. A lot of people ask if you could go back and give yourself advice when you're 20, what would it be? I am actually curious if you could go back just 3 years ago and give yourself advice, what would it be, right? 3 years ago is just 2021. So what would you go back and tell yourself in 2021, early 21?
Yeah, I think early on I was more private about it and I didn't need to be. And so the advice, I have a few things here, but one piece of advice would be to start working on your brand earlier and tell people what you're doing. Because right now we have a pretty good marketing effort, pretty good exposure across the different social media platforms. And I get a lot of different people from my network, people I've literally known since childhood, who are now interested in what we're doing and potentially interested in getting involved, like as investments. They can experience financial freedom through some of our projects, or just the education piece is huge. And so the point I would bring up there is start working on your brand earlier. That's one point I would have. And then another one that's been more on the challenging side is you're going to have a lot of people not understand what you're doing or why you're doing it, or it's not in line maybe with with what they think is the right path for you, but it's your path. It's not theirs. So identifying earlier, like what's noise and giving it no energy. I've probably not like fully derailed my course, but induced more stress on myself when it didn't need to be there based on listening to other people who didn't, I won't say the people didn't matter, but their opinions didn't matter. But I listened to it. Like, why? There was no use for that. So I would just say, identify what the noise is and don't give it any energy.
Yeah, start. I don't think there's anybody, there's nobody ever who says don't start building your brand earlier. I think that's sage advice, especially in today's environment. It's not uncommon, especially for folks in the military who generally are conditioned to live as, be private as you can on social media and reduce what they would consider risk and operational risk and stuff like that, which is valid at points in your career. But by and large, it doesn't serve you if you're doing anything on the entrepreneur side to keep everything a secret. Like, people need to know what you're doing on the business side, and you will be absolutely flabbergasted by how many people are interested, would like to get involved, want to work with you. It's pretty eye-opening. So yeah, that's probably the best advice we've had on this show of like, what would you tell yourself? Start your brand. Like, start your brand as early as possible.
I have a funny kind of ironically timed anecdote for that. I don't want to get into too many private details, but I had a family member close to me come in this past weekend and went and drove some of my projects. And he said, wow, I didn't really realize the scale at which you're doing these things. How can I get involved? Well, we've got this way based on this risk. We've got this other way. You've got this way. Really 3 options for you to get involved based on how much you may want to invest and the time horizon for all those 3 options. And so they chose to invest 6 figures with us based on things they had known, like fundamentally I'd been doing for several years, but to get to come and see it and feel it, like that's somebody who I know extremely well who decided to get involved in a project like that for us. And so, you never know what kind of interest you might spark by giving people knowledge and exposure to what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it, man. It's so good. You guys are crushing it. You guys are crushing it in the Tampa space. For anybody who wants to learn about your businesses, your development business, agent side, any of that stuff, or wants to get involved or come to your meetup, what is the best way to look at that, to look you up or get a hold of you?
It's definitely on Instagram. So our Instagram is at JPL Invest. So just JPL Invest on Instagram. It's just my initials, and we post everything there. We got a whole bunch of links there. You can get plugged into our local mastermind group, which is I think a really good deal if you're local to Tampa. It's growing really well. We've got our free quarterly meetups at the Elite Investor in downtown Tampa area, and then got different ways people can invest if that's something that you might be looking at. So
yeah, so go check James out on Instagram, JPL Invest. That is his handle. He does have all of his links up there, and he puts funny content up. You have good content, man. It cracks me up sometimes.
We try to skirt the line between educational and actually like valuable, right? Provide some kind of insight and also have some fun with it for sure.
It's cool because you guys are very professional. Everything about your page is professional. At the same time, you'll put some funny stuff in there, and I think that really makes it special because I will actually be LOLing at my house when I'm like, look at James, he's cracking me up. So that's cool, man. I'm really proud of you. I'm happy to know you. I'm happy to be a friend. And I think just what you're doing is absolutely incredible, and it's an honor. It's an honor to be a part of it, even on the sideline watching, man.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate that. That's real special to hear from you.
Thanks for coming on to the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast.